Hello, my name is Hannah, and I'm going to tell you about the 7 books that I read in March. The first book I read was The Western Wind by Samantha Harvey. I read it as an ebook on Hoopla. I saw it recommended somewhere eons ago and just decided to pick it up. It's a literary mystery set in a medieval English village. There's been a death, and the village priest is trying to elicit a confession from someone in the village before the end of Lent, because the powers that be believe there's been foul play. I loved this. It took me eons to read it. It took me like a full month to read it because I was really taking my time with it. It's pretty complicatedly written, so it's got great prose. It's really well paced, and the concept of it sounds kind of dry, but it's actually it was very exciting. I really love the pacing. It's actually told in reverse, so the beginning of the book is Fat Tuesday, and it moves backwards through Shrovetide to the beginning of the weekend. So our understanding of these characters and their relationships and their motivations changes throughout the book as more gets revealed. So it was a really fun read. I definitely recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. Careful. All right, Ruthie is just gonna be wandering around, I guess, into and out of frame. The second book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So, to tell the whole sordid tale, I was a bookseller. I was aware of the Grishaverse of Leigh Bardugo's books, but I had no intention of reading them because they just seemed like really boilerplate YA fantasy to me. Not necessarily something I'm super interested in. However, a combination of some really effusive recommendations from customers at the bookstore, and I was part of a YA book club that chose Six of Crows, so I was like, fine, I'll read the Six of Crows books. This happened probably a couple years ago, and I absolutely loved them. So then, fast forward a little bit, the TV show was announced, and the cast was announced, and I was like, who the hell are they? So I knew starting there I'd probably end up reading the Shadow and Bone books, but I'm trying to power through them before the show comes out. Actually, the teaser trailer came out when I was at about the 100-page mark of this book, and the teaser actually covers about the first 100 pages. I liked it. I really liked the description of the magic system in this. It differed quite a bit from the description in Six of Crows. It's still a little tropey. It's a little YA fantasy for me. You know, there are like these leaps in logic for the sake of the plot. The love triangle, the very special girl. But I still liked it enough. I mean, I tore through it. I read it pretty quickly. So I was curious enough about where it was going that I went out and bought the other 2 while I was still reading this. The next book I read was Dune by Frank Herbert. I have my Dunes back here. I should grab this. This was a reread for me. I listened to the audiobook on Libby. It was just a partial reread. I read the first book of the book. I believe it's just called Dune. I stopped right at the beginning of the Muad'Dib section. The movie is coming out later this year, and to my understanding, the movie's just over that first half of the Atreides getting to Arrakis, getting betrayed. It made for a really, really fun reread. I kind of discounted the first time I read it. I hadn't seen the movie, hadn't done any pre-reading, didn't know anything about it. So when I actually read the book, I understood that it was like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I just don't get, and I just need to power through. I think I, like, even now underestimated how much I just didn't understand of Dune the first time I read it. So there's a lot of like, what's Muad'Dib? Who is Princess Irulan? A jihad? What are they doing? So this, rereading it with a single clue of what was going on was really fun. I read the first 2.5 books in the Dune series before I tapped out. But yeah, looking forward to the movie. I'll probably continue on and read the second half sometime in the next couple years, if and when they ever make the part 2 of the movie. Next book I read was number 4, I believe, and that was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. Read it physically. I liked this one as well. It was really fast-paced in the beginning. I loved the beginning of this. I loved everything with the boats. I loved Nikolai. We all love Nikolai. Really fast-paced beginning, then looking for the sea serpent. I loved all of that, and then it just kind of came to a screeching halt. And there was a whole lot of middle, like a lot of middle. And then that very exciting ending, very dramatic. Loved the cliffhanger. This was probably the weakest of the 3, but I still liked it. I mean, I read each successive book in the series a little bit quicker because I just wanted to know where it was going. But yeah, by the end of this, I was very much on the hype train. I was very much getting Shadow and Bone TikToks on my For You page. But yeah, it's fun. The next book I read was The Electric Hotel by Dominic Smith. I listened to it as an audiobook on Hoopla. It first came out of my radar a couple years ago. I saw it on the new release table at the bookstore where I worked, and I just was really taken with the cover, and I half read the description. I saw something about like silent films in old Hollywood, so I was interested in that. It basically is the telling of the life of a fictional filmmaker from the silent era, in this like world-changing film that he made that time forgot, basically. This book was weird. Really weird pacing. It would take forever on some things and just slam right through others. Like there's entire chapters on, trying to get an individual shot in the Electric Hotel in the film that they made. But then it would take the entire life of one of the like B characters and just wrap it up in a paragraph. So it was really odd choices there, but there were parts I really liked that I wanted to see more of. He is a cameraman in World War I, and when he's a kid he works for the Lumieres, and there's some like B characters like the stuntman and the guy who ran the theater. I'm already forgetting details of this book. It didn't leave a lot of an impression, but I would have loved to see more of that and less of, oh, Sabine is mad about something, yeah. Also the framing device with, it's years down the line, it's in like the 60s, I think, or 70s in Hollywood, and the filmmaker, I think his name's Claude. He's like telling his whole life story to this film student. And it just felt really like inconsistent. It just felt really like inconsistently used, and it was just kind of inserted whenever there was like a lull. I don't know. I gave it 2 stars, which was maybe a little harsh because there were parts that I really liked. I liked all the film history baked in. I really liked his buddies, like I mentioned earlier. I liked some of the characters, but the problem for me became that it became a chore to get through the bad parts to get to the good parts, which is not really it's not really what you want when you're reading. So the next book I read, surprise, surprise, was Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. And the unthinkable happened. I was spoiled by my For You page on TikTok. I'm going to discuss Ruin and Rising spoilers for like a second. So it wasn't anything major. It was more confusing than anything. It was like books summarized in 5 words, and it was like Hunter leads search for himself, and I immediately, alarm bells. I was like, Mal, he's the tracker, the hunter, but they're looking for the Firebird. They're looking for the 3rd amplifier. Is Mal the amplifier? So it raised more questions than it answered, but it still felt like a major spoiler to me. So I read this very quickly, trying to avoid anything else getting spoiled for me. But yeah, I really liked it. I liked the twists and turns and the reveals. I even thought, and I'm a I'm a Mal fan. I know Mal has his detractors. I like him. I thought it was huge and very bold of Lee Bardugo to kill Mal, and I just thought that was like a pretty major move, because a lot of times YA fantasy, YA books in general feel kind of low stakes. And then there'd been that, what I thought was foreshadowing with like Morizova's daughter, like they brought her back, but she was different. And I was like, oh, maybe they're doing that. But then he was fine. Mal came back from the dead and he was just completely fine, which was fine. But it was like, oh, okay. And then literally right after I finished this book, the main trailer came out. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the 23rd. This Lee Bardugo is very quickly becoming one of my most read authors, just between the Grisha verse books and the Ninth House, which I read last year and I really liked. So I'm currently rereading Six of Crows books. I bought King of Scars. I think the Wolf something, the other Nikolai book just came out. So I'm really looking forward. I'm gonna try to slam through everything by the 23rd. We'll see. And the final book I read was A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. I listened to the audiobook on Libby. I initially read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing when it was the Barnes & Noble Book Club pick. So I read it when it very first came out. I really liked it. I was worried that I had forgotten too much, because normally when I read a sequel of something, a lot of times I have to reread the book it's a sequel of, because I don't remember a lot of details, but I didn't do that with Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, which worked out okay, because An Absolutely Remarkable Thing has that very memorable ending, which that ending kind of made me take pause before reading this. I wasn't clamoring to read it, that's why I'm just now reading it when it came out sometime last year, I think last summer. Because I really loved that ending of An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I didn't see it as a cliffhanger. I saw it as an open ending. I saw it as very open to interpretation, which I really liked. So I thought that this was kind of like Hank Green not leaving well enough alone. But I absolutely loved this. I thought this was really, really good. I gave it 4 stars. The audiobook was really well put together. I love a well-produced audiobook. Hank Green, at the end there's a Q&A, and he even talked about how he's very mindful of the audiobook process and how that's its own experience, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I may have even liked it more than An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I felt like it had so much to say about like power and money and fear and information and celebrity and everything. There was so much in here. I would love to reread it physically, so I can actually annotate it and take down some quotes that I really liked. There was one about people who like stoke fear and then unleash it into the world and then don't claim responsibility for it. It's like, yeah, I really liked it. It was a really great note to end the month on. I had a pretty good reading month, and it was cherry on top. It was such a pleasant surprise. I did not think I was gonna like it at all, and I really loved it. So for next month, I'm gonna be talking Six of Crows. I'm going to be talking real life. I'm going to be talking Malibu Rising and some other stuff. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to do this again next month. We'll see.